The following program contains shocking amounts of wit. If you suffer from dim-wittedness, this show might not be right for you. Check with your mortician.
Power that wrought me, grace that sought me, blood that bought me ere I knew, death that freed me, wounds that healed me, love that brought me back to you.
Standing for truth in the four corners of America. Fighting for justice on the frontiers of the culture wars. And turning resistance into an art form. Randall Terry.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be with you. In today's program, we finish up with the 5th and 6th B. Honeybee? No. Bandages and bug-out bag. You're going to learn a lot on how to be prepared in case some bad things happen in a town near you. But first, a word from the doctor.
Most people know that the NSA is reading our emails and listening to our phone conversations. What people don't know is that traitors can also read your mind. Don't be a blistering idiot. Get your aluminum foil helmet today free at my website with the purchase of our premium pocket protectors. Premium pocket protectors.
Hello, friends. All right, we are in our final episode of the 6 B's. All right, I'm going to read them because I don't want to get them wrong. Belief, bread, bullion, bullets, and today we're going to talk about bandages and bug-out bag. It's quite an alliteration there for you. This series is designed to follow the proverbial statement in the scriptures that the wise man sees danger approaching and prepares for it. The fool passes on and suffers. I don't want to suffer. I don't want my family to suffer. I don't want you and your family to suffer. So my mission in this series is very simple. To try and bring you and me closer to speed, if you will, the speed that people had 100, 150, in some cases 200 years ago, where they knew what they would have to do to survive bad times. Now, as I've said before, I'll say it one more time. I have house insurance, health insurance, I have liability insurance, I have car insurance. I don't want to use any of it. I really don't. But if disaster occurs or a calamity occurs or a difficulty or the need arises for any of those insurances, they're there. All right? We've made preparation. This series is about preparing against what may be the coming hard times. Now, listen to me. You don't have to be a prophet to see that the dollar is collapsing. CNN recently did a show showing a great number of nuclear facilities in America, nuclear power plants, that are completely unguarded, and one well-placed terrorist bomb would result in cataclysmic disaster for this country if there was any type of a collapse of the dollar or severe food shortages. We've seen various little pockets in our country where portions of cities have gone up in flames, where riots have broken out. That could be the tip of the iceberg, what we've seen. I don't want it to be. I pray that I and you get to finish our days in peace and that we get to see our children and our children's children and maybe even great-grandchildren. That would be a blast. But it does seem like the writing is on the wall that there are difficult times ahead. So therefore, we need to be ready for them. So we're going to talk about bandages, and I want to thank my staff for all of their help. And I want to say one other thing, and that is that I don't like talking about this. a lot of what I'm about to say makes me squeamish. You know, thank God my wife took some medical classes in college and was considering becoming a nurse, chose not to do that, but she's really good with medical stuff. When we have a small medical emergency with our sons, she is on it. One of the members of the team has had EMT training and was there to help recently when a little boy got a really deep cut on his foot. He knew exactly what to do. It was really impressive. This stuff makes me squeamish. I don't like talking about it. But I owe it to you, I owe it to myself, to know as much as I can and to deliver this data as much as possible. So if the stuff hits the fan and we have to become much more self-sufficient as a people, our families, if you've moved out to suburbia, if you've moved out to the country, you're going to have to become more self-sufficient. So some simple precautions are in order, because if help is not on the way, if a doctor is not right around the corner, if the drugstore closed and you can't get an antibiotic, a simple cut that gets infected could become a death sentence. All right? I'll talk more about that later, but we want to do what we can to avoid injury. So, the most important thing that I want to start off with is don't get hurt. If you're doing gardening, wear gloves. If you stick your hand in amongst some weeds, what if there's a snake there that bites you? What if there's a sharp piece of something and it gashes you? The glove will protect you. This is simple precaution. If you're using a chainsaw, have headwear on. Have steel-toed shoes. If you can get some chaps, wear them. Because if the chainsaw kicks, and I've cut a lot of wood with chainsaws, if the chainsaw kicks and it hits your leg and gashes your flesh, that might be a death sentence. If you've got chaps on, it's going to deflect. All right? Ask for help. 2 is better than 1. It's a foolish man who climbs up a ladder without someone holding it down at the bottom and spotting for him. Here is a really critical one. Now, and this I'm saying to myself as well, now is the time to get medical training. The Red Cross in your area, they'll do some basic first aid training. You might have an EMT training seminar that comes regularly for you, for people who are interested perhaps in serving on a volunteer ambulance or a volunteer fire company. Get some EMT training. Go to the Red Cross. Go to your local volunteer firehouse. Ask them when they have this type of basic medical training. And by the way, if you've got kids, if you have children, this is good training to have right now. Like I said, I've been able to get off a little bit scot-free because my wife has all of this training. She worked in a nursing home for years. She has basic medical knowledge. I don't. And if my wife wasn't around, I'd be hard-pressed. So if you've got children, this is something you should be doing. All right, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to start to pull out some of the items that would be usable for you in an end-of-the-world scenario. Don't go away. My wife and I, for 5 years, have been grinding our own wheat and baking our own bread from scratch. Within 2 hours, you can have fresh wheat in your hand and then piping hot bread come out of the oven. The most nutritious and delicious bread you will ever have. And we do it for under $1 a loaf. Call Paula's Bread and find out about this grain mill and the mixer and how it can save you money and change your life. How would you like to be able to reach hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of potential customers with your product or your company or your web-based business? Well, you can do that right here on this show. Every single day, we get phone calls or letters or orders online from states all over the country where people are watching this television show. Right now, we are seen in 45 cities at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time every night, and then a rerun again at 12:30 midnight. You can reach them using this show at advertising rates that are so inexpensive, it would blow your mind. So, if you're interested, contact us at the phone number that you see on the screen or the email address, and we can talk about how you can grow your business and help support this show. Hi friend, I'm Randall Terry. George Washington said, "Government is not reason, It is not eloquent. It is force. Like fire. It is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. Welcome back, friend. Medical show and tell. We're going to have a little bit of fun. By the way, this is not just stuff for a Teotihuacan event, the end of the world as we know it, or some major calamity, but this stuff is almost all for everyday use. All right? This is just wisdom because you don't know what life is going to throw at you. So I have a friend who is here in the studio who brought all of this, and we're going to go through it and discuss what it would be. But again, the reason to have this on hand, well, I live near a drugstore. Well, what if your drugstore isn't open? What if you've got to hunker down for 2 or 3 weeks in your house while things calm down outside? You want this here. And of all of the B's that you could spend money on, there's not $1,000 worth of stuff here. There's not even $500 worth of stuff here. All right? This is a very modest way to invest for your family's protection. So I'm going to just pull out. Actually, I'll close my eyes here. Dun, dun, dun. Rubbing alcohol. If you have a wound, a flesh wound, even if it's somewhat deep, you need to clean it out. As I said in the last segment, a cut can be a death sentence if it gets infected. By the way, everything that we're talking to you about today, I want to show you this really quick. We are not selling any of this stuff. We learn these things from books like When There Is No Dentist, Where There Is No Doctor, a village healthcare handbook. The Survival Medicine Handbook, written by a doctor, an MD, and a nurse. And of course, the Encyclopedia of Country Living. I encourage you, go online. You can go to doomandbloom.net. You can go to survivalblog.com. You can get these books, and you can bone up on what's in them for your own sake, for your safety's sake, so that you're not caught unaware. If in one of the book titles says, When Help Is Not on the Way. All right? We've all become so accustomed to dialing 911 and someone showing up. There could come a time in some of our communities, some of our cities, even out in the country, where help just isn't on the way. And it would sure be nice if you had this stuff. All right, let's see. Acid controller. If your diet becomes really funky because of what you're having to eat to stay alive, you might have some acid problems that are causing pain. Have some acid controller. Quick clot. Stops bleeding fast. Like I told you, when a little boy recently got a really deep cut, somebody knew exactly what to do, putting pressure on it. But then when we got the little kid home, we had to stop the bleeding. We had to have a butterfly bandage put on it. Aspirin, really simple. Good for the heart, helps pain. Aspirin, by the way, is one of the greatest medical discoveries in the last 150 years. Thank God it wasn't discovered today. It'd be $30 a bottle instead of 99 cents. Band-Aids. Get the fabric kind, all right? Flexible fabric. Make sure you have a good supply of Band-Aids. Oh, there's one. Again, if your diet is causing you difficulty, anti-diarrheal. You'll want that. You need the one also that's if you're constipated, okay? So you could have delivery problems that you need to correct, either too much or too little. Nasal spray, saline nasal spray. If you've got a nose infection, or if your nose is starting to bother you, you do not want it to turn into a general infection in your nasal passage. How about this? Alcohol swabs. It's good to have swabs, but with an alcohol swab, if you did get a cut, if one of your kids got cut and it was fairly deep and you need to get in there and clean it out, it's going to hurt a little bit, but you want the alcohol swab because it's going to get out the things that could cause an infection. Allergy medicine. Isn't this like Benadryl?
Yep.
All right, so if you get a bee sting, you want to have this around. Some people have very violent reactions to bee stings, and if you're not near a pharmacy and you can't go get a prescription, this might be the difference between misery and quick relief. Baby powder. Need I say more? That was a nice touch, by the way, the baby powder. Very nice. Neosporin. This, of course, is an antibiotic ointment. All right? When we had the little man who had the cut, who had to have the butterfly bandage, it was a very deep cut. We ended up not putting in stitches because it was clean enough where we could get it to close. But boy, we loaded it up with this, and we kept our eye on it every 3 or 4 hours to make sure that an infection didn't start to happen. Because if an infection happens and it goes unnoticed, you can go into a septic shock, all right? And that literally can be life-threatening. What do we have here?
Gauze.
Ah, gauze. We're going to talk about gauze when we come back. Let's see. Sufridrine, nasal and sinus decongestant formula. Again, some of this is just for convenience. If you're miserable because your nose is all plugged up, you'll wish you had this. And it's not expensive. And let's see. Again, what was this one? Omeprazole. This is also another acid. Yeah, if your diet has become a little bit funky and you're miserable, you know what I don't see here is I don't see one of the most important things you could have, hydrogen peroxide.
I keep that refrigerated.
All right, keep it refrigerated. Make sure you've got a lot of peroxide on hand. Are we out of time in this segment? Do we need to go? All right. When we come back, we'll talk about these pretty little colors here. I like colors. Do you want to have knowledge, wisdom, discernment? If so, you have to read good books on theology, history, books that look at the lives of great men and women. So to help you to become a more effective Christian, a better witness for truth, somebody who can engage in productive conversation that exhorts and edifies those that you speak with, we're going to do something crazy. We're offering you these 7 books for a gift of any size. You just pay for the shipping and handling, and then give whatever gift that you can, and we will send them to you. But just to make it a little bit more crazy, I will send you a second copy of my 3 books, autographed. You can give them as a gift to your pastor or to a family member and help extend truth and justice in the world. This is while supplies last.
Man is called a reactionary if he objects to having his property stolen and his wife and children murdered. Sir Winston Churchill.
Welcome back, friend. Nobody wants to think about disaster. Nobody wants to be afraid. No one wants to be anxious. I'll grant that. But we still need to be prepared. So, how do you spell relief in a disaster? Gauze. Gauze. Oh. And more gauze. If somebody has a cut, you need sterilized gauze. That's what this is. We've got a lot of it here. And color coordinated. If you're going to wear blue, and I'm colorblind, so it would be useless for me to even tell what I'm looking at here. But these wraps are self-adhesive. This one's pink? Thank you. All right, well, that'd be for the girls in the house. This is a self-adhesive wrap. The wound is cleaned out properly with rubbing alcohol and hydrogen peroxide, and then you put on the Neosporin with the antibiotic ointment in it, and then you wrap it with gauze. And then you seal the gauze with this self-adhesive, and then you change the bandage, all right? And you keep looking for infection. By the way, speaking of keep looking for infection, in the last century or 2 centuries ago, people were having 8, 10, 12 children, right? Many women died in childbirth. Some families only had 3 or 4 children that made it to adulthood. They lost many of their kids when they were young. They died, they buried them. One of the leading causes of death was infection, just simple infection. We didn't have antibiotics back then. We now have much longer life expectancies. Very few of us, thank God, bury our children in their infancy or in their youth because of the advance of medicine. But if the pharmacy is closed, if the doctors are not available, what do you do? Well, in the Survival Medicine Handbook, page 490, they point something out that I want to point out. I'm not a doctor, and you need to read, do your own research, but this is fish antibiotic. Can you get a close look at here? This is an antibiotic for fish. Now, what they point out, which I found really interesting, was that the ingredients for the fish antibiotic and for a human antibiotic are the same. Look at these pictures you're seeing. And the contents are the same. In fact, the same, it appears that the same manufacturer makes them. One is for humans, you need a prescription. One is for fish, you get to be the doctor for your fish. If there is no way to get an antibiotic in a normal means, but you have some fish antibiotic, I'm not saying you should do this, But these doctors are saying if it's the difference between you dying or one of your kids dying because of an infection, you need an antibiotic, and the fish antibiotic is what you have, and it saves your life, it might be worth having. I've got to go to the bug out bag. But first, if you need a good doctor, that doctor better have one of these.
No, Randall, no.
I want to take a break. I'll be right back. We'll talk about the bug out bag. Do you want to get America out of the hands of wicked and unjust men and women who are destroying the republic before our eyes, and put leadership back into the hands of righteous men and women so that we don't die as a nation? Well, you're talking about social revolution, and there are rules in social revolution. We can look at the victorious social revolutions of the past, such as the end of slavery, the end of child labor, women's voting rights, the end of segregation, and so much more, and learn from their victories. Look at their actions, their images, their rhetoric, their sacrifices, and their final fruit. We will send you this series that originally cost $129, 7 books for students, 1 teacher's guide, if you'll give a gift of any size and just pay for shipping and handling. Take advantage of it today. This is the 6th B, a bug out bag. When you need to bug out, you keep this in your car. By the way, hear me on this. If something bad happens in your city, you don't want to have to go home and start to pack all this stuff up. If it takes you 4 hours, that 4 hours might be the difference between life and death, literally. Being stuck on an interstate with miles of traffic not moving. You want to be the first person out, not the last person stuck in line, because you are not going to get out in some situations. All right, so what's in the bug out bag? Everything I talked to you earlier, all the medical stuff right here, 161-piece first aid kit. It's right here. Have one of those in your bug out bag. Iodine tablets. If a nuclear device goes off or if a terrorist attack a nuclear facility, you want to be able to have iodine tablets that you can take that'll help flush out your thyroid so that you don't absorb the toxic radioactive material that will kill you. Some Silver Eagles, all right? In case the dollar goes to heck, we got 2 Silver Eagles here. You might want to have more than 2. 2 is better than nothing. A headlamp. If you're having to pull over off the side of the road, put that on. It's a flashlight that's attached to your head, and you can just look around. Maybe a little pup tent. Tom overkills, but you know, if all hell broke loose, he'd be glad that he had this stuff, and I'd be glad if I was traveling with him. All right, some duct tape, a little kerosene lantern, some sugar to keep you warm, candies, all right? You suck on that, keeps your stomach from getting too antsy. Some MREs, all right? Food bricks. A string. This is going to be very helpful if you need to have something you have to wrap and pull or tie down. This is all inside the bug out bag, by the way. I think everyone knows why we would enjoy this. Perhaps Lane, a tight shot. Yes. All right. Water in the bug out bag. This has been purified. By the way, maybe the most important thing. You can go for a week or 2 weeks without food. You can only go 2-3 days without water. This is a water purifier. Bike riders who travel up or people who walk the Appalachian trails, they take these with them. They scoop water out of a creek, and if you drank that water, generally you would get sick. If you run it through your little handy-dandy personal water purifier, you can drink it and live and not die and not get sick and not get diarrhea, etc., etc., etc. Little radio, be great to have. Itty-bitty AM/FM radio if you have to listen to what's going on. And your multifunction tool, all right? We're out of time. The point of this is the wise man sees danger approaching and prepares. If you have the 6 B's in moderate order in your life, finishing with the bug out bag, it could be the difference between survival or death. So this is not to make you afraid, it's to make you wise so that you and your family can survive if tough times hit us unaware. Hope you've enjoyed this series. God bless you. Hello again. This is a bug out bag. You keep it in